Welcome back to the Ed Show. The latest ugly case of racism from Republicans who don't like the President of the United States. The Chief U.S. District Judge, Richard Siebel of Montana, sent this email to 6 of his buddies. Normally, I don't send or forward a lot of these. I want all my friends to feel what I felt when I read this. Hope it touches your heart like it did mine. A little boy said to his mother, "Mommy, how come I'm black and you're white?" His mother replied, "Don't even go there, Barack. From what I can remember about that party, you're lucky you don't bark." Judge Siebel was appointed by President George W. Bush. When this email became public, the judge said this: "It was not intended by me in any way to become public. I apologize to anybody who was offended by it, and I can obviously understand why people would be offended. I'm not a fan of our president, but this goes beyond not being a fan. I didn't send it as racist, although that's what it is. I sent it out because it's anti-Obama." Judge Siebel says he is sending a formal apology. At his own request, the Ninth Circuit will perform a misconduct review. There's more anti-Obama craziness happening out there today in Arizona. Sheriff Joe Arpaio held a news conference on the president's birth certificate.
"We believe probable cause exists, indicating that forgery and fraud may have been committed."
Well, this hour-long presentation by the sheriff included Jerry Corsi of right-wing WorldNet Daily. How's that for objectivity? Sheriff Arpaio is currently the subject of a federal grand jury investigation into criminal abuse allegations. The United States Department of Justice has accused him of racial profiling. It is sad that we are at this point in this country. These stories keep coming up. But a federal judge, a judge does this? A U.S. district judge having fun with racism? Would you like to go in front of him if you're a person of color? Would you like to be in a situation where a judgment has to be rendered by this man on the bench? This man shouldn't be investigated. He should be removed. And the Justice Department should do everything they possibly can to get rid of this Judge Siebel in Montana and send a lesson to everybody on the bench that you're there as a responsible citizen to judge others by the law. And when you do things like this, it is extremely hard for the public to have confidence in our judicial system. This is way out of bounds. It parallels that of what Limbaugh has done in his profession, which I'll have more commentary on later on in this broadcast. We are back with Michael Eric Dyson on this subject right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Ed Show. Racism in the Republican Party and also racism in our judicial system. The story, the Chief U.S. District Judge Richard Siebel out of Montana sending a racist email about the President of the United States. Let's turn to MSNBC political analyst Michael Eric Dyson, also a professor at Georgetown University and the author of the book, Can You Hear Me Now? Professor, your reaction to the judge's email, and I guess I have to get right to it. Can this judge in any way, shape, or form be objective and be trusted in cases of people of color standing in front of his bench?
I don't think he can at all, Ed. Here's a guy who obviously is colored by his own beliefs, tinged with bias. His anti-Obama sentiments are one thing, but to connect them to racialized sentiments like he's done here is ridiculous. How do you think you could have an objective person who would consider your case, adjudicate, which is what judges are supposed to do, decide between what's right and wrong, between competing claims, if he's already been informed by a certain kind of bigotry and prejudice toward African-American people and this kind of vicious, vitriolic sentiment against the president? I don't see how you could expect him to be fair.
Is a misconduct review at his request just damage control for him, or do you think it could be a thorough process which could end up possibly removing him from the bench?
We certainly hope that a serious examination is in order here. How can we do anything except call for impeachment of this man and removal from the bench, because he has really sullied the reputation of the bench. We are not confident as a public that he's able to render fair judgments. And if he were a man of worth and integrity, he would step aside voluntarily, knowing that he has gone beyond the boundary here of fairness and objectivity. And now the very legal reasoning that he uses to make judgments is in question.
And to the story in Arizona, where Sheriff Joe Arpaio put on his Dog and Pony Show press conference today after investigating whether the President of the United States has an authentic birth certificate. What do you make of it?
It's just more of the same kind of, refusal to acknowledge Obama as a legitimate American. And this attack on him is really an attack on millions more of us who are seen suspiciously through the prism of a narrow, right-wing conservative outlook. And to go through this Dog and Pony Show to try to prove that Obama is or is not a citizen is a distraction. The deeper issues in Arizona are about immigration and about borders and about to what degree America will be fully what it claims to be in its Declaration of Independence. Not this kind of shenanigan where he tries to prove Obama as, again, an outsider and as a person who deserves to be treated like a common thug on the street.
Here's what the sheriff said earlier this week about GOP candidates seeking his endorsement.
Michelle Bachmann, Herman Cain, and, of course, Perry. I campaigned for him in Iowa, which I see a lot of Iowa people walking by. And Romney called me briefly.
If this story about the president's birth certificate is so wacky, why are so many Republicans, according to the sheriff, out to get his endorsement? What do you make of it?
Because they're wacky, too. I mean, the wackiness just doesn't seem to end in the Republican run-up to trying to decide who will carry the water for them. I think it's a sign of the desperation and the disorganization and ultimately the disintegration of the Republican Party that they're seeking Looney Tune folk like this on the lunatic fringe who have nothing to do with the central operation of American democracy. And we can be fair. We can say, look, we disagree. We're on the left, you're on the right. We can have an argument that is civil. But these kinds of debates really show America at its worst, and it's nothing more than race baiting and hatred that has to be ended.
Michael Eric Dyson, thanks so much.